Please welcome to the stage Steve and Liz Smith.
So, good morning. This morning we're presenting a Legacy Award, and we're so very honored to be able to recognize volunteers who carry on the tradition of leading this wonderful, wonderful annual JA conference. The Legacy Award is presented to a parent or caregiver, or parents and caregivers, who have made a lasting impact on the Arthritis Foundation and the JA community through their involvement with the National JA Conference. The recipient must have been involved for a minimum of 5 years, playing a critical role in the leadership role, or a critical leadership role, in the planning and or on-site support and delivery of the JA Conference. They must have served as the JA Conference Planning Committee chair or sub-chair, or been the actual chair of the Planning Committee. They also might have been people who initiated new programming components to this conference.
So at this time, we'd like to bring up to the stage last year's recipients of the Legacy Award, and that is Bridget and Katie Carter, to present and reveal the recipient of the 2022 Legacy Award.
We'd like to welcome to the stage this year's recipients of the Steve and Liz Smith Legacy Award, Bob and Jennifer Tawning. Because they are such big baseball fans, let's look at some stats. Bob and Jen started coming to conference in 2007. In 2019, they chaired 2 amazing conferences in Minneapolis and Houston. Bob and Jen have hosted an annual golf tournament for 15 years, raising over $500,000. This year's event included 200 golfers for Emily's Pink Team, and funds raised are split between the Arthritis Foundation and Shriners Hospital.
But it's not all about the numbers. The Tawnings have made a significant personal impact on the members of the JA community. Bob has been a leader among the JA dads for many years. My dad says that Bob is always friendly and the guy to go to if you have any questions. Jen is a calming force to the moms and helps my own mom keep her sanity. They are recognizable figures among the kids too. I remember at our first conference, Boston Bob was in charge of some carnival games at the family fun night. I was fascinated by his Red Sox gear and his funny accent. But the most important thing they have done is raise their incredible children, Bobby and Emily. They both have been good friends to me over the years. I am thankful to have Jen as one of my JA moms. Thank you both for being an inspiration to my family and so many others.
I can't believe they let us back up here. This is awesome. You have anything to say other than your shock and awe?
I want to say thank you so much for this honor. We've been involved a long time, and we always looked up to Steve and Liz Smith, and we always joke that we want to be like them when we grow up. And to have this award is it's truly inspiring, and so thank you so much. And to have my JA moms with me and always, so thank you. Very, very honored by this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve, Liz, Katie, and Bridget, and congratulations to Jen and Bob. We have a great session planned as we close out this year's JA conference. You have been posting online throughout the weekend using the hashtag #StrongerThanJA. Our next presenters are going to share with you how we are truly stronger together as a JA family. The Arthritis Foundation advocacy efforts are a critical element in our pathways to a cure and quality of life for JA patients and their families.
Based in Washington, D.C., Anna Hyde is the Foundation's Vice President of Advocacy and Access. Anna and her team lead advocacy programs at the federal and state levels. She will be joined by Heidi Barrett, Advocacy Platinum Ambassador, JA Mom, and Volunteer Extraordinaire from the other Washington State. Anna and Heidi.
All right, good morning, everybody. We are really excited to be part of the closing keynote. We're going to spend a few minutes with you talking about the power of your story. Some of you have seen us or been in some of our sessions this weekend, so you know that we are all about the power and the impact that your story has. Part of what we're trying to accomplish here today is to sort of break down any sort of intimidation factor or fear factor you may have about what advocacy is. And by the time you leave here, if I don't convince you, Heidi absolutely will, that all that matters to make an impact is your story. So we have a very timely, I couldn't have made this up if I wanted to, situation right now back in Washington, D.C. One of our core priorities that we've been working on for quite some time now is pediatric subspecialty workforce. There's a particular program that offers loan repayment to physicians, subspecialists, who go into underserved areas. And because we all know that that is a major issue for pediatric rheumatology, we've made this one of our priorities for the past, I want to say 12 years and counting now, this program. I'm going to say it once and then I'm not going to say it again because it's a mouthful. Pediatric Subspecialty Loan Repayment Program was authorized in 2010, a long time ago, and we've been working towards getting it funded that entire time. We had a critical success last year with getting it funded for the first time ever. It was really exciting. Heidi's gonna talk a little bit about that in a minute, but we've got to grow that funding. If you don't have or have had experience with a pediatric access issue, perhaps you live in a state that doesn't have a pediatric rheumatologist, or maybe only has one or two. Perhaps you live in a state that has plenty and you don't have access challenges. Chances are you know somebody who does. Certainly there are people in this room who have. So it's a major issue, and building up that pipeline is one of our sort of key asks every single year. So you guys are all gonna be advocates in just a couple of minutes, so gear up, have your phone ready or whatever your favorite electronic device is. But first, we're gonna hear from the Health LA, that's Health Legislative Assistant. These are the really, truly powerful people in those Senate and congressional offices. She's been working on this for a long time. Her boss, Senator Jack Reed from Rhode Island, is one of the core original champions of this project, this program. And she recorded a little video for us, so we're gonna listen to that.
So I'm Jill Boland. I handle healthcare policy for Senator Jack Reed of Rhode Island. I've been in his DC office doing this for almost 9 years now. And I can say the senator started working on the pediatric subspecialty loan repayment program actually before my time in the office, as a part of the Affordable Care Act, because that's when the program was authorized for the first time, and the senator played a part in that. But in the time while I've been in the office, knowing that the program, previously was not funded, and we wanted to, restart the conversations and the efforts around the program, I would say for the senator, at least, while I've been here, the thing that has gotten him interested in this issue and inspired him to work on the issue was really hearing from his constituents. Time and time again, we heard from folks who were not able to get their kids in to see pediatric subspecialists in all types of subspecialties. Often it's in mental health, but it really covers all of the subspecialties. Like you all know, I think stories and hearing how an issue impacts you all in particular is really, really the most important thing for meetings or conversations with the senator or members of Congress and their staff. We can track down legislation and build numbers, and certainly it's always helpful when you have a specific ask, like a bill or a letter or a program to be funded. But I think what really is memorable for members of Congress and their staff is how it impacts you and their other constituents directly. That's really what they're going to take away and remember from the meeting more than anything else.
So I want to put a finer point on this issue. We have a map here. This changes frequently, so bear that in mind. It kind of shows where the shortages are. You can see some of the states, even those that aren't considered shortage states, like Washington State, you'll hear from Heidi in a minute about that. You may be serving all of the surrounding states. And so just because it doesn't look like a shortage state, there's still some sort of access and shortage issues. You see a lot of zeros and ones here. That means there are a lot of states that don't have any or only have one pediatric rheumatologist serving the entire state. I've certainly heard over the years many stories about how this impacts families. Some of those stories are truly devastating. It really fuels us in our advocacy, the work that we do. The loan repayment program would incentivize pediatric fellows and residents to go into subspecialties like rheumatology. They would go into underserved areas, so in theory, these places with the zeros and ones, in exchange for loan repayment. So that's kind of framing up the issue. Let me tell you the situation and why you all are about to be advocates here in just a second. Congress is right now considering their appropriations for the next fiscal year, which starts on October 1st. The House of Representatives has put a $15 million sort of down payment in their bill for this program, which is huge, because the first year that we got it funded, we've only gotten $5 million, which is barely scratches the surface of where the need is and how high the demand is for these dollars. We're trying to inch that up. Really, really, really critical. The Senate, we don't even know what they're gonna do yet. So this is the time. People are working on this as we speak. This is the time for your senators and your members of Congress to hear from you, to hear your stories, and to make it known that this is really important to you. We want to make an impact right now. So with that, we're going to all be advocates right now. There's a QR code here on the screen, but they're also at your table. Take out your phone or whatever your favorite electronic device is, scan that, or you can use the link here. It's going to take you directly to our Action Center. If you aren't familiar with our Action Center yet, it is a very easy to use, user-friendly. It's where we do all of our work. Any issue that you can possibly imagine that you may be interested in, we probably have an action campaign around it. This one is going to take you, this QR code is going to take you directly to this loan repayment action campaign. It'll pop up a very brief kind of letter that you can just hit send on. You put your address in, your name, and it'll send that letter directly to your senators, your 2 senators, and your representative. Now, some of you who have done this for a while, you may know to personalize this, but what we want to emphasize here is how quick and easy it is to take action. You don't have to personalize it. You can do this in literally 60 seconds. So we're going to put up a map here. So as you hit send, that map is going to populate where those actions are coming from. By the way, we have our virtual audience with us as well doing this, and we sent out an action alert on this very issue at 5 a.m. this morning. So if you're signed up as an advocate, you may already have seen this. So this is our all hands on deck action, advocacy in action, in real time. We're seeing those get populated. I'm gonna move over here because I'm gonna start talking to Heidi a little bit. And Heidi, I see that you're taking action as we speak as well.
I am, because the Arthritis Foundation makes it so easy. They auto-populate into what the field. You don't have to know anything about politics. You don't have to know who your senator or your House of Representative is. You just put in your name and your address, and there's links that will take you to all of the information. I can start this process from start to finish every time I get an action center in less than 5 minutes.
That's awesome. And as we're seeing more and more folks, I see Washington State, so I take it that you took action, okay?
Taking action.
How many times would you say over the past decade you've taken action on this very issue?
Oh, we've been part of this issue from the very beginning. Every time the alert comes, not only do I take action on the alert, I send it out to all of our friends to have them take action, and they don't have to be associated with the Arthritis Foundation. They know us, Juvenile Arthritis. They know what our family goes through. So every couple of months or so, every 2-3 months, we get an action alert, and I send it out. So dozens of times.
And speaking of dozens, we have maybe just a dozen states left here. We're hoping to get to all 50. That's our goal. We're only gonna have this map up for about 2 minutes total. We're getting close. Almost there.
Come on, everyone.
All right, come on. There we go. All right, we did it. Oh, that's awesome. I can't wait to, when we get back to Washington, D.C., we're gonna go in and look at all of the sort of support that we got, and we'll send that back out to everybody. Okay, so I hope that you're convinced. If not, we have one more video to show you. Don't take it just from us. We have a video from I will call him a VIP. Not only did he used to work at the Arthritis Foundation in the Washington office, but he also is an advocate, a patient himself, and he used to work for, as the chief of staff, the House Appropriations Chair. So she is one of the most powerful members of Congress when it comes to getting this funding that we're looking for here right now. So he's going to give you a little inside baseball in this video about how the power of the story is really critical.
Hi, I'm Kevin Brennan, and I'm a member of the Arthritis Foundation's National Advocacy Committee. And I'm excited to be with you today to talk a little bit about my journey with advocacy and my work as somebody who's lived with psoriatic arthritis since I was diagnosed at the age of 15. It was pretty lonely when I was first diagnosed. I didn't actually meet anybody who had psoriatic arthritis until I was about 25. And so I was really proud to have worked and helped the Arthritis Foundation help build a national advocacy effort around juvenile arthritis. And I'm really glad that you guys are all here today and really interested in trying to help make a difference by educating your members of Congress about the importance of juvenile arthritis and the need for research, the need for access to medical care and for prescription drugs to help children deal with the pain and the disability of arthritis. Previously, I had worked for Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro. I was her chief of staff. Rosa is now the chair of the House Appropriations Committee, which I know is really important to some of the advocacy work that you all are embarking on this week. I also was legislative director for then Representative and now Senator Sherrod Brown from Ohio. And Sherrod sits on the Senate Finance Committee, which is really important as far as Medicare and Medicaid and a lot of different healthcare priorities. So I'm really glad that you're doing this, and I think it's really important that we all work together so we speak with as loud of a voice as we possibly can to try to make as big a difference as we can. You all can do a great job of helping to, educate Congress and create awareness around juvenile arthritis and help galvanize them to action. For a long time, I was afraid to talk about my arthritis because it didn't feel comfortable. I felt like I was talking about something that affected older people when I was younger, and I was really reluctant to talk about it. But if I didn't talk about it and if others didn't, then no one on Capitol Hill would understand what it is and nobody would be in a position to take action to improve lives. So I think it's really important. I can remember at one point talking to Congresswoman DeLauro when we were behind closed doors briefing and talking about how important it was that there be innovation so that there be new therapies to help people with arthritis. And I think it made a difference in some of the work that I've been able to do. So I'm really excited that you all are doing this, and I hope you have a great, great series of visits with your members of Congress so that you can make a difference to help improve the lives of so many people. Thank you.
All right. So, I just want to kind of put a fine point on this too before I start asking Heidi some questions, put her in the hot seat here. Just to show you the direct impact that your advocacy can have. Here's a slide that shows just another campaign that's really important to us around step therapy. We're one of the leads on this bill called the Safe Step Act. 1,300 advocates have sent messages to the House of Representatives this Congress, and we have tracked how that's translated into co-sponsorship. It's resulted in 93 new co-sponsors to the Safe Step Act. And if you've been to Washington, D.C. with us, you know that that number of co-sponsors is really critical to the advancement of a bill. So as we transition here to talking to Heidi, I don't want you to think that you have to have 10,000 people sort of engaged in an issue in order to make an impact. Really, it only takes a few stories, a handful of tweets, a few actions taken like you all did just now in order to make an impact. So just keep that in mind. Your vote counts when it comes to these issues. So with that, Heidi, I want to just, we've already gotten to know you a little bit through this conversation. You've obviously been working on this particular issue for a very long time. In fact, last year we had a Strike Force Lobby Day where we brought in pediatric subspecialists and patients from across the country to get into members of Congress offices to try to get this funded. It was one of the most important things we did all year. I want to hear about that in a second, but first, can you tell us a little bit more about your story and why this issue matters so much to you?
So I'm a mom of 5 kids with my husband, John. 4 of our kids have juvenile arthritis, plus we collect other autoimmune diseases. I was alone. Our family was completely alone for the first 3 years. We did not know another family. Our first rheumatology appointment lasted less than 15 minutes long. It was the rheumatologist's last day. We were her last patient ever, and she was no longer going to be a pediatric rheumatologist. Basically, she told us, yeah, your kid's got juvenile arthritis. It's probably psoriatic. Here's some Mobic. You should probably come back sometime, and pushed us out the door. So we lived in a state that was considered one that had a lot of doctors. My son was incredibly sick. Our first wait time was, we were given was 9 months. He got in at the 7-week mark, but it was a 15-minute appointment. And like I said, we were alone in the world with no one. Then I met the Arthritis Foundation in 2007, and the doors opened to us. But again, I'm just a mom. I live in a blue-collar town, 5 kids trying to raise them. I have no political power. I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican. I don't have anything that anybody needs. So, this wasn't for me because I'm not going to make a difference.
Let me ask you about that, because I think a lot of people do feel like you have to have this special connection, you have to be an old buddy of a member of Congress, or make big political donations in order to really be heard. So how do you know that you're making an impact from your personal experience?
So I just started sharing our story and what we've gone through. Just, what's happened with Liam, what's happened when my other kids got diagnosed. And my story had impact. When we prepared last year for the strike force, I have 4 great team members in Washington State that helps with advocacy, but we needed doctors involved and we needed medical professionals. And I sent out an email, and within the first 15 minutes, I had 20 pediatric rheumatologists that wanted to be a part of this conversation with our elected officials. I had in the background adult rheumatologists who volunteered to be a part of it if the pediatric rheumatologists couldn't get time off. They did it because I had been sharing my story and what it meant and what our family went through without a pediatric rheumatologist, and they heard the story and they came out because of what we represented.
Now let's talk a little bit more about what your experience was like actually doing the strike force lobby day. Now Heidi, because she lives in Washington State, we know that the House of Representatives, the House Appropriations Chair, Rosa DeLauro, she's from Connecticut. On the Senate side, the Senate Chair of the Appropriations Committee is Patty Murray from Washington State. So when you got to meet with her office, you got to meet with the committee staff who actually has jurisdiction over this program. So you had a direct line into the biggest influencer. So tell me about how that meeting went and what that experience was like.
Sounds scary, doesn't it? That they sent me to go meet with Senator Murray's staff member about this. It wasn't, because the Arthritis Foundation is there in the background, giving the law, giving the bill numbers, and telling exactly, giving the inside the baseball what they need to know. We were there to tell our story, and our story has impact. They want to hear our story. It's kind of boring all day going, oh, there's 300,000 kids with juvenile arthritis. You kind of hear those numbers and what do you do with them? But telling the story about my 4 kids and how this has affected us having a shortage of pediatric rheumatologists, we made a difference.
And I have to say, I got to sit in on that meeting. I was really grateful to. It was one of the best meetings I've ever been part of on the Hill. And hearing the pediatric rheumatologists talk about how even at a place like Seattle Children's, where you're fairly well resourced and there are staff there and you have a good number of pediatric rheumatologists there, that they have people from Alaska flying in because there's a shortage there. They're serving people from all parts of the state. They're servicing Idaho, Montana. They have people coming in from an entire region. They're not just supporting the city. That really made an impact on me. In addition to the stories about how that mentorship really matters. A lot of people go into pediatric rheumatology because they had a mentor. And so building up that pipeline, we've got to do it now before the current sort of crop of mentors retires. So I'm hoping that we've convinced everybody in this room that their story matters and that there's a place for them in advocacy, no matter how big or little. My final question for you, Heidi, is for those who may still be a little bit on the fence about whether this is something they can really make an impact in, or whether it's something that they want to get involved in, or they might still be a little bit intimidated, or whatever the sort of concern or trepidation might be, what is your message to them?
Just come, check it out, become an e-advocate, sign up for the emails. You're not committing to anything, and really, like, we had this action alert. If you did the action alert, how long did it take you? 2 minutes? The commitment level is not that high, and the Arthritis Foundation is there to support you. Hey, you're having a bad month and you can't participate because your child's in the hospital, it's okay, we get it. You got a kid with juvenile arthritis, we know what's going on. So it's a really supportive community. You don't have to know anything at all, we will help you all the way, from finding out who your representatives are to getting you signed up to do a little bit more.
And my final pitch would be that it's not just your stories going directly to your legislators, it's also your stories coming to us as staff, because, you know, this is what we do for a living. We're on the Hill every day talking to members of Congress about any given issue. I never go into a Hill meeting without taking somebody's story with me. It really matters a lot. And so not only can you take action, but you can also use our story bank to sort of tell us what your experience may be on any given issue. I guarantee you, whatever challenge you may be experiencing with your healthcare, we have some sort of opportunity or action campaign around it. And if you're more than convinced and you want to do more than just take action through our Action Center, there's a lot of other cool stuff you can do. You can participate in a state capitol day. You can come to Washington, D.C. You can testify before a state legislature. Sure. Heidi has done that. You can write op-eds. There's so many different things that we would love to connect you with if you like what you've seen here today. With that, I'm going to thank Heidi for being up here with me. And I have to say that when they told us we only had 25 minutes, I thought that was going to be the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, to stick to 25 minutes for such an important issue. But we've done it with time to spare. So I'm really proud of us.
We did it.
All right, thank you, everyone. And I am going to invite our CEO, the one and only Steve Taylor, to the stage to take it from here. Welcome, Steve.
Well, thank you, Anna and Heidi, for that great talk on advocacy. I was sitting with the advocacy staff, so they were giving me live updates, but just to literally tell you, just this morning, with all of you, those online, as well as the advocacy alert that went out this morning, 721 people have already taken action this morning, just on that one email that you all just sent. So that map was literally live, so thank you very much for that, and how easy that is to get involved and share your story and share your voice. So I just have some closing remarks, and then I also have the honor of presenting our last award of the weekend as well. You know, first I want to thank you all for being here, and thank those that are online watching as well, who have been able to take part in our hybrid opportunity as well. But as you know, those in the room, the opportunity and the connections that were made this weekend will last a lifetime. You know, I heard last year when I joined the organization as executive vice president how amazing our JA conference was. Of course, I was sad that it was virtual last year, but so honored to be able to take part this year. And I heard from Ann Palmer, the previous CEO, and other staff how amazing the conference is. And I will say that they lied. It's not just amazing, it is life-changing even for myself. And I'm sure many of you, especially those first-timers that came this weekend, it is life-changing, the connections, the education, and the awareness that you all gained while being here, as well as those connections that your children made as well. You know, meeting many of you and hearing your stories, those that came up and shared them with me, you know, I will take them to my work moving forward and take them back to the staff. You know, I humbly respect and appreciate those private stories that you shared with me. I also loved interacting with the kids, either at the dance party or in the various rooms I was able to attend, and how inspirational the kids that have JA are, but also their siblings who advocate for them without even knowing they're advocating for them, or protect them, or tell their story. It really is a family among families for sure. So I leave really excited with energy and commitment to the JA family as we leave here this weekend. I also just wanted to mention a few things I got to witness over the weekend, which were, as I mentioned, just a great opportunity to really see how this conference can make a life-changing impact for you and your families. But the breakout groups and the networking sessions were amazing. I'm sure many of you met new friends. And if you've talked to people like the Tonnings who won our award this morning, for years they've made connections over and over each year they come back. And those connections have helped them through time. And many of our parents will tell you that. So if you were new this weekend, I'm hoping that you were able to network and make connections with families that have similar situations as you, live near you, share pediatric rheumatologists with you. However you made those connections, those will help you move forward as well. I was able to take part in Gatorland. If your kids talked about that, I was actually able to hold the alligator. Although it was interesting, I loved the eyes of the kids when they walked in and saw the scorpion and the tarantula and the gator and the snake. They weren't out all at the same time, do not worry. They were taken out one by one. But really exciting that we were able to offer that, including the Panda Clinic. I'm sure your kids talked about that. Watching those kids walk through the panda clinic with their baby panda and have it examined by the doctors that were here, the pharmacists, the physical therapists, and walk through the various stations. What a great opportunity for those kids to not be the patient for once, but be able to be a doctor with their patient. It was a really great experience for them. And then I just want to recognize and thank Natalie Decker. I don't know if Natalie's in the room yet. I know she's going to be taking part, hopefully, in our kids' parade. Is Natalie in the room? If she has, no, not yet. I just want to thank Natalie. If you were able to interact with Natalie Decker, the NASCAR driver, she went to every single kid's room. She's obviously a JA kid herself, and she's told me she was upset her parents hadn't brought her to this conference before. And she was thrilled to be a part of it live this year. Last year she was virtual. But her race car, to bring that all the way down from Charlotte, was a hike for her and her husband, or boyfriend, Derek. I married them off without even telling them. But she they brought that car down there for us to be able to experience and for your kids to get inside and sign the hood. What an opportunity, and what a spokesperson we have in Natalie Decker. So please, if you see her, please thank her for all that she does for us voluntarily as well. Let's give a round of applause to Natalie for sure. And I hope that you know, not only do you have family amongst each other, but you have family at the Arthritis Foundation. We are surely committed to the juvenile arthritis population. It will be a cornerstone of this organization, as it has been for many, many years. But as long as I'm CEO and Frank Longobardi is chair, we will continue to make sure JA is a cornerstone, and that we expand our programming and look at opportunities of how we can reach and help more people as well. Very important to us as an organization. And then before I give our final award, I do want to take a moment and thank our sponsors and recognize them for helping us make this conference possible. Our investment in this conference is high, and we appreciate the corporate support that we receive. First, AbbVie, our national presenting sponsor. They were here this weekend. I hope that you stopped by their booth, but they are engaged with us on so many levels at the organization, but fully committed to JA. And so can we give AbbVie a round of applause? And then our supporting sponsors, AOPI, Genentech, and Novartis. I want to just mention Novartis just joined on a couple weeks ago, literally right before the conference. They were also here taking part. So we appreciate Novartis's support. And I'm sure after they experience this weekend, they'll be back to support us in future conferences as well. So if we can thank all of our supporting sponsors. And then finally, I'd just be remiss if I didn't thank our volunteers and congratulate our award winners one more time. But our volunteers have been amazing. Can we hear it for all of the volunteers? And some of those volunteers you saw on the front lines, running rooms, running breakouts, but also you didn't see the ones behind the scenes, putting name tags together, picking up, packing up, moving things around at night after you all went to bed. Truly appreciate each and every volunteer that made this happen. It definitely takes a huge village to make this happen. And now I have the honor, and as you know, Liz Smith has presented a number of volunteer awards this weekend, and I am grateful that the committee has asked me to present the last award of the conference, our Parent Leadership Award. This award is presented to a parent or parents that have shown exceptional courage and strength in leading their families through the struggle of living with a childhood rheumatic disease. They've generously shared their time or talents by serving in parent leadership roles with the Arthritis Foundation, either locally or nationally, and through their local community through volunteer engagement, fundraising, and other JA activities. It is so fitting that this year's recipient of the 2022 Parent Leadership Award is our conference chair, Adam Vigil. Let's hear it for Adam. As you already know, Adam is the father of Sage, his 20-year-old daughter who was diagnosed with systemic JIA 12 years ago. Adam and his wife, Gwen, and here he is receiving flowers live from us out in California. Congratulations, Adam. But Adam and his wife, Gwen, and thank you, Gwen, for delivering those flowers for us behind the scenes. But Adam and his wife, Gwen, and their 7 children have supported the Arthritis Foundation by telling their story and sharing the realities of SJIA with the civic organizations locally and nationally, pharmaceutical and medical collectives, schools and sponsors, among many other opportunities that they've taken part in to help share the story. Adam works tirelessly balancing multiple jobs, family obligations, and leadership roles at the national level, as well as the local market in Orange County in California. The Vigil family has been through a number of personal challenges, not only with Sage's diagnosis, yet they remain committed to serving the JA community whenever asked. All of you participating in this year's JA conference really are benefiting from Adam's vision and leadership for the conference. And it was really heartbreaking this past week when Adam wasn't able to join us due to COVID, because he also helped plan the 2020 that was put on hybrid, and then of course replanned for 2022 here back in Orlando. We really truly appreciate the great lengths that he went to make sure that this conference was an amazing opportunity for all of you. You'll hear more directly from Adam about how and why he got involved in the Arthritis Foundation and his commitment to continuing the support of the JA family during his acceptance speech, as well as his closing remarks and inspirational talk that he plans to give this morning. So please help me in congratulating and again welcoming Adam Vigil, this year's Parent Leadership Award winner. Adam?
Thank you, Steve, and thank you to the Arthritis Foundation. This is such an honor and certainly was unexpected. But I'm not sure that I can really accept this or even deserve this award. But I can accept it on behalf of others. On behalf of Colleen Ryan, the very first person to reach out to our family to bring us to the Arthritis Foundation and to tell us about this conference. I can accept it on behalf of my very close friend and my staff partner, Teresa Watanabe, who was my extraordinary 2020 JAC showrunner and the person behind our wildly successful Orange County Inland Empire Arthritis Foundation office. I can also accept this on behalf of my fellow OCIE board members, led by the amazing Dr. Robin Dorr. And I can accept this on behalf of Jim and Dave, my fellow JA dads, the boys from Monster, the true energy behind our #1 national in the nation JBR. And I can accept this on behalf of the tribe, all the JA dads, and on behalf of Steve Smith, who sent me on this path to understand and improve the lives of fathers with chronically ill children, and to all the JA dads who now march forward carrying my passion. I can accept this on behalf of my beautiful wife, Gwen, who is smart enough to let me soar and wise enough to keep me grounded. But most of all, I can accept this award on behalf of my daughter, Sage, because it was for her that I started down this path. And I accept this for you, Sage. You are my muse, my strength, and you have taught me so much.
September of 2010, my daughter Sage, then 8 years old, came home from school and she said she had a sore ankle. And my wife, Gwen, did what any self-respecting mother of 6 would do when her youngest child came home and said her ankle hurt. She kissed her on the forehead and she said, "Wow, you really must have played hard at recess, but you still have to clean your room, do your homework, and go to school." When Sage came home the second day and her ankle was still hurting, Gwen did what any self-respecting mother of 6 would do when her daughter came home and said her ankle was hurting for the second day. They went shopping. For shoes, out went the Payless, in came the Stride Rite. And when Sage came home the third day and her ankle was still hurting, Gwen did what any self-respecting mother of 6 would do on the third day of the pain. She took Sage to the pediatrician. And that visit to the pediatrician started an 8.5-month diagnostic battle that nearly took my family to our knees emotionally.
There's so many painful memories that ricochet through my brain from those first dark days, but there's one memory that sticks out more than any other. And that was the night that Gwen and I spent in the emergency room with Sage. Because for the previous 2 days, Sage had been in so much pain that she couldn't stand or get out of bed. The emergency room doctors had just invited an orthopedic surgeon into the room to determine if the only course of action was to remove the lower half of Sage's leg. And I remember in that moment, my head was filled with questions, horrible questions, awful questions. I questioned everything. I questioned God, my karma, my ability as a father, and even my ability as a husband. I had questions like, what the hell is going on? Why is this happening? Why did this go so wrong? Why does she deserve this? And eventually, God, if you're so angry at me, why don't you take my leg and not my daughter's? There were so many questions, useless questions, damaging questions, detrimental questions. I just hated questions.
I don't really remember that trip to the hospital. I was so young and there were so many trips to the hospital, so many trips to the doctors, so many blood tests. They all really kind of blur together at some point. I really didn't remember what was going on. That one, clearly the fear on my parents' face stands out to me. I can clearly picture how afraid they were at the time, but I didn't know why. All I really knew was that the pain never stopped. It just kept coming, it just kept getting worse, and I remember being very frustrated by the questions my dad kept asking and I remember thinking that they didn't matter and not understanding why they asked. All I really remember, all that stands out clearly, is just hope that the pain would eventually stop.
Once the surgeons came back in and determined that he was simply another character in yet another bad play called another misdiagnosis, I began to listen to my wife and hear her questions, her good questions. And those good questions helped me quiet the cacophony that was the list of my really awful questions. It was then that I learned that questions aren't bad, that questions are good, but they have to be good questions. And we have to ask those questions.
As the months went by, I began to understand more about what was going on in my body. We still didn't have a name for what was happening, but I knew more about when the pain would come, when it would go away, when the rash would come, when it would go away, when the fevers would come, when they would fade. I would understand more of what to say to the doctors. I would understand more of what was going on at the hospital trips. And 8 months into this process, 8 months of pain, a dermatologist and a rheumatologist later, I finally had a diagnosis. I had systemic juvenile idiopathic arthritis.
When we finally got that correct diagnosis, it was only one question that was answered, and there still was a myriad of other questions left over. We knew that they were good questions, and we knew that we had to ask them. But the real problem was there was no one there to answer them. And then by chance, Gwen came across an advertisement for the Orange County Walk for a Cure. And she asked me, why can't we go to this? Why don't we go here and try to find someone that can answer these questions? Why do we have to continue to live not knowing these answers? So we went to that walk. 7 of us did. And 6 of us walked that walk, pushing Sage in a cute yellow wheelchair. And when the walk was nearly over, we had not found anyone. But as luck would have it, we were found. Colleen Ryan found us. And finally, there was someone who could answer our questions. Colleen answered all of Gwen's questions about meds and doctors and treatments. Colleen told us more about the Arthritis Foundation and about a JA conference that was held every summer. And there was one scheduled in just a few short weeks in Missouri. Gwen and I asked ourselves if we could make it to that conference. We determined that it was too soon. We didn't have the resources, we didn't have the stamina, we didn't have the energy. And Colleen told us that that was okay, because there would be one the following summer, and we should really go.
And 8 weeks later, by the grace of God and the generosity of a great many people, I was walking off a plane in St. Louis with my daughter and my wife, and we were going to our first JA conference. And because of airlines and rent-a-cars and hotels, we did not make it to the opening dinner, but we did make it in time for the parents' networking sessions. And I remember walking into the dad's networking session, and I was upset. I was really upset because the first 11 seats at the back were taken by other dads. So I had to sit 12 seats closer to the front. And I remember when that microphone came to me, it was everything I had to not break down again. When I said, my name is Adam, my daughter Sage has SJIA, and we're from California. I couldn't get that microphone away from me fast enough. I did not want to speak. I wanted nothing to do with it. But over the next 3 days, we learned so much about this condition. We learned so much about the medications that were available and on the market. We learned so much about what to do about Sage's pain and her school, and we met so many families. Sage met kids that she still talks to this day. And more important, we met young adults that used to be as sick as Sage, and now they weren't. They were independent and powerful and self-reliant. We met young adults that were powerful and creative and were making an impact. We met young adults that were changing the world. We met Jen Ziegler and we had hope. And we went home to California transformed. We stopped asking why.
Returning home from that first conference with so many answers did nothing more than make room for more questions. But these questions we asked ourselves. Questions like, were we giving back enough to the Arthritis Foundation? Were we making it better for Sage and other kids with rheumatic diseases? Were we doing everything we could to make an impact? And are we doing enough so that no other family has to go through what we went through? And finally, am I doing enough to change the destiny of the JA family that welcomed my family into theirs? Knowing we had to answer these questions, we did not rest. We worked tirelessly with Teresa, our local staff, to start Orange County's first Jingle Bell Run, and Sage was the first honoree. But that still wasn't enough. That still wasn't the answers that we needed. Though we had no idea what to do, we helped bring the JAC to the OC, the conference to Anaheim, so that we could make an impact on more families and a positive impact on more kids. It was then that I learned how to answer my question. Am I doing enough to make a change in the future for Sage, other kids with arthritis, and their families? It was then that I found my passion, my drive, and my mission. And that was to make it better for all JA dads like me. And then with the help of researchers from the United States, Canada, England, and Australia, and by reading every article and publication I could find on the subject of JA dads and fathers of kids with chronic illnesses, I became one of the most knowledgeable individuals on the subject, so I could share that knowledge. So I could help find those dads that were lost and convince them that they are not just part of the problem, that they can be part of the solution. That even though they might not be able to hold a candle to the emotional support that their wives or the mothers of their children could give, the support that JA dads could give was endless and powerful and tremendous. It was simply a different kind of support. And they too could make a change. That they could find the strength and the courage to change the destiny of their children. We JA dads could make an impact that is so powerful, so remarkable, that we could change the world, because together we are the tribe, and we are powerful, and we are unstoppable, and we are here to stay.
When talking about conference, a lot of times I don't talk about what happened at conference. I don't remember the sessions, I don't remember the coloring, I don't remember the shields. What I do remember is the kids that were my age, the experience of meeting people for the first time that truly understood what I was going through. What I remember is my parents being energized. I remember them finding a passion to figure out what was going on with my condition. But what I remember most is finding about camp. When I went to camp for the first time as a kid, a decade ago now, it changed my life. It was the first time people treated me as Sage rather than a kid with arthritis. So much of my life up to that point was just people asking me about how my pain was, people asking me all these questions that didn't matter to them, didn't matter to anybody but myself, who was living in the body that wasn't working. It was the first time people just treated me like I really was just a kid, where I got to run around and have fun and ignore the rest of everything. I was no longer labeled as anything else because we were all in the same boat. Then 10 years later, I'm back here at camp as a counselor, giving that same experience to other kids, and I'm in that position where I've been able to share the experience of being treated as just a kid, an experience I'd only ever really had here. This place has magic in its walls, and so much of that magic is that all the counselors, all the staff, everyone just listens to the kids. They listen to what they have to say, and they trust them that they know their condition best. And they give them the space to be themselves outside of their condition as well as within it. They don't tell them to shy away from it. They don't tell them they're stronger than that. They don't tell them they're inspirations. They just tell them that they're kids and that they're amazing and that they want them to have fun. And that has been life-changing for me.
Even though I saw these amazing successes, conferences getting bigger every year, or JVR becoming #1 in the nation, the talks that I gave across the country and virtually to people across the globe, I still felt there was something missing. I would talk to Sage and it was obvious that I still had not grasped it. I was missing the boat. Until one day, and I remember that day. It was 2 years ago in Arizona, in an equestrian arena at a national competition in her final year as a youth competitor. Gwen and I watched as Sage gave one of her best performances of her career. The stands around us were filled with other trainers and coaches, horse breeders and judges, and each of them clapped and commented on Sage's performance. Her trainer clapped and had a huge smile on her face. And her performance placed her solidly in the top 10 and eventually 7th in the event. An event that she nor her horse were ever very good at. And through tears in our eyes, we watched as Sage took her horse out of the arena and into the paddock where her trainer took her horse. But there was no smile on Sage's face because she couldn't stand. She couldn't walk. She had to immediately sit in the chair. And I was right back there in that emergency room with all those horrible questions, those awful questions of what the hell is going on? Why didn't she tell us she was in pain? Did she take her meds? Why are the meds stopped working? Is this going to be another flare? Why did she even ride today? And why the hell didn't I bring her wheelchair? And as Gwen and I rushed out of the stands and down to the paddock, we found our daughter standing and walking. And as I rushed to her, I listed out all my bad questions. And all she did was look at me and say, "Dad, you need to listen. This is my arthritis. This is my condition. This is my body. And I got this." It was then that I understood what Sage had been saying for years, what for so long I failed to understand. It all made sense, and I had found the answer that escaped me. I finally understood what Sage was saying all along. I should stop asking, "How is your pain?" Or "Did you take your meds?" and start listening to the answers that she gave to the questions that she asked herself. The questions she learned to ask because her mother always asked Sage good questions and always listened. Her mom taught Sage to ask those good questions, and I never picked up on that. But finally, I figured it out, maybe 10 years too late. I realized that sometimes the best part of our family's good questions were simply to really listen to Sage's answer. After all, it's her arthritis, it's her condition, and it's her body. Now, as we look at the end of this conference, and I look at the end of my tenure as one of the leaders of this JA family, I can only hope that I can be so bold to give you one small bit of advice. Questions are good, but they have to be good questions. And you have to ask those questions and really listen to the answers. If you find yourself full of questions, that is good because that means you're looking for answers. But you just need to find the good questions. And if you find that you don't yet have your own good questions, look around you. There are hundreds of people around you and online that have their own good questions. Ask them for their good questions. And if you have good questions, share them. Like the people that shared those good questions with you. And you need to ask those questions. Ask questions of your pediatrician, your child's rheumatologist, the nurse, and the pharmacist. Ask questions of your insurance company, your pharma rep, and don't give up without answers. Ask questions of your child's teacher, the school principal, the school's administrator, and don't let them off the hook. Ask questions of your elected officials, your congresspeople, and your senators in Washington. Demand answers, because last I heard, they work for us, not the other way around. And then ask questions of the Arthritis Foundation and insist on answers, because there's no better way to help the Arthritis Foundation be better for your JA family than to ask them better questions and help them find the better answers. And more important, ask questions of yourself. Am I doing enough? How can I make a difference? How can I change the world? And do not rest until you answer all of those questions. Find your answer in starting or helping grow an event in your area that will someday be the best in the nation. Or start a movement like the Tribe that can be led by guys like Dan and Pete and Rick into the future to ensure an everlasting positive impact. Or to collect more cans each year to raise money for the foundation. Yes, Mason, I see what you do and I am inspired every time. But in the end, just answer your questions and change the world. And lastly, ask questions of your child. Ask good questions and listen to their answers, because that might be the best thing you could do for them. And I know the questions that you ask your toddler or preschooler or elementary student is quite different than what you ask your high school student or your junior high student, but still ask those questions and help them answer those questions. Teach them how to ask good questions and insist on answers. Because when you teach them to ask questions and insist on answers, you teach them to advocate for themselves. You teach them that they have some control of what's going on with their arthritis, with their condition, with their body. You let them know that they are part of the care team and not just the focus of the care team. Help them recognize that they too have answers. And unlike me, learn early to listen to their answers. And then you will help them become more than just a child with arthritis, but a person, a successful, powerful person who can change the world. I want to thank all of you, especially those of you who I met at my first conference, like Steve Smith, Boston Bob, and Michael Lantini, and Katie Bittner. All of you, and all of you who I've met over the years. Thank you for being part of my journey, part of my path, and helping me find my answers, helping me transition from what I was, just a father of a child stricken with arthritis, to what I'm proud to say I am today. And that is just Sage's dad. Sage, I am so proud of you. You are so powerful, so strong, so brilliant, and so determined. You got this.
Thank you so much, Adam. That was really inspirational to hear your story, and congratulations on your award. So welcome to our little ending party. So sadly, our JA 2022 conference is coming to an end, but we've already started planning for 2023. So in previous years, we've tried to always keep it a secret where our next location is, but we already know that in 2023, we plan to gather in person in Atlanta. So this year, we have finally had the family reunion that we've been longing for since the pandemic began. And next year, we have a homecoming.
So our homecoming means several things. So welcome home, guys. First, Atlanta is the home to the Arthritis Foundation. It's the organization's national headquarters. So the Arthritis Foundation is proud and pleased to invite you to visit their hometown.
In addition, if you didn't know, Atlanta is also home to many iconic establishments and entities. It is the home of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the Carter Center. It's also the home of CNN and the Weather Channel.
Cool.
Home of the Atlanta Braves, and the new stadium where the Atlanta Braves play is very close to our conference hotel. If you're hungry or thirsty, Atlanta is home to Coca-Cola and Chick-fil-A. And if you're a history buff, Atlanta is the home of Gone with the Wind, and it's also where Martin Luther King Jr. led the civil rights movement, and where Hank Aaron broke baseball records. That's just a little bit of Atlanta history.
And finally, it's a homecoming for everyone who gained so much from this particular conference. We're like a family. Together, we're stronger than arthritis. So on your tables, you'll find a peach sticker representing the Peach State with a reminder about next year's conference dates. So please take it with you and be sure to save the dates on your calendar and look for registration information in a few months.
So whether you're there in person or participate in our hybrid event virtually, we are looking forward to another great time together at our homecoming for next year's National JA Conference in Atlanta. Please picture yourself joining us there.
Exciting, right?
So exciting.
Yeah. So these past few days have been a fabulous experience. I'm sure you'd all agree. You've shared so many great photos through social media, and together you've all shown that what a life-changing event this is year after year. Let's take a look at some highlights from this weekend. So as we leave here today, please know that we are all part of the JA family. We stick together through the ups and downs, the successes and the challenges. We raise our voices together, and we are united in our quest to conquer JA. We have a few special shout outs as well as we get ready to travel back to our homes.
First, to Steve Taylor and Frank Longobardi for their leadership of the Arthritis Foundation and their commitment to programs like this and the support that they give to so many families across the country. Thank you to our 2022 Planning Committee led by our fearless leader, Adam Vigil. We would like to thank each of these amazing volunteers, and we would like for them, if you were on the committee, to please stand.
Yes, stand
to
so
be
we see you.
recognized. So each of our planning team members were led by volunteers and committee members, and we also had our medical advisory committee that was amazing through all the planning and ups and downs.
They helped us through many tough decisions over the years and made this possible, so they deserve extra gold stars.
Yep.
To the Arthritis Foundation staff, thank you guys for making every family member here have the best experience possible. And a very special thanks to our childcare staff and youth directors. Woo!
So we are going to send it back to Adam for one last couple of comments from him. And there's a camera right here. So all of you down here, we can say hello and wave to our conference chair, Adam. Tell him hello, good morning.
Good morning.
It's still morning in California, so we're good.
Yeah.
Okay, Adam.
Hi, you guys. I do have a few thank yous. First, to the tribe, the JA Dads, and the original tribe, Boston Bob, Michael Lantini, and Steve Smith. Thank you for welcoming me in so long ago, and thank you for never forgetting me. To Dan, Pete, and Rick, and all the JA Dad leaders, thank you for keeping my dream alive. And to Brent Cooper, thank you for helping me feel connected all weekend. And to all the tribe, never forget that you are tremendous, you are powerful, and together we can change the world. And to Barry, an amazing JA Dad, we cannot thank you enough. And please pass on our thanks to NASA and the International Space Station for their off-the-planet support this weekend. And thank them for being with us in 2020 and again in 2022. To all our sponsors, without you, our reach would never be so broad, and forever we thank you. And thanks to the hotel management and staff. Thank you for welcoming us in, making us feel comfortable, and keeping us safe. And I want to thank a group that rarely gets mentioned, Russ and the AV staff. Thank you for a great job making sure every space was ready to go with mics and projectors and screens. And especially in this room, to Jeff and Russ. For 10 years, you have had the unenviable task of making me sound good and look good. And you have done a superb job making me sound good. And as far as making me look good, yeah, I get it. You're only human. But you have made sure that everybody could see me. And to my wife, Gwen, Sage, and my family, thank you for allowing me to take this role on not once, but twice in 3 years, to spend countless early mornings and meetings, nights on Zoom and in the studio. And to Katie Bittner, well, you know. And finally, to this JA family, thank you all so much for coming here and joining online to make this such a special family reunion. And to the new families, thank you for coming this weekend and joining our JA family. And I hope it was an impactful event and life-changing as our first conference was. And to all the JA family, I hope when you leave here today that you feel a little more at peace with your child's condition, that you have made new connections and rekindled old ones, and you have a better understanding of what the future holds. Take care, travel safe, and Godspeed to where you will be from. On behalf of Gwen, Sage, all my 7 kids, and my super cute granddaughter, Emmy, farewell. This is Adam Vigil from the JAC TV studios in Orange County, signing off for the final time.